Good evening to Seth Morgan, coming to you once more from Anchor by Spotify. We're going to pick up where we left off this afternoon, and we're going to continue discussing the God particle, that black DNA activation. And so we're going to continue with the information that we've been giving to you and how it's so very urgent for you to begin to gravitate towards your higher self. This is not a cliche. This is your spiritual life. This is your spiritual life. Because many of you say that you're born again. Isn't that correct? So how are you born again? Without having a spiritual resurrection. How are you actually born again? And I also want to mention that when we come on here, we are using uncopyrighted music. I just want to make that clear for those who are actually searching to see whether or not we're within the guidelines of what we're doing, because we are. And so I want to continue with this subject, and I want to give you some information here as we've been continuing to unfold this information to you. This is so important. I can't stress this enough. And I mentioned earlier that I was going to read a story to you, which I'm going to. And like I said, there's going to be many episodes of this, many segments, because there's so much information. And where we left off today, but before we go there, I just want to interject some things and get us on, the right footing. Okay. If you say that you're born again, because those terms are thrown around a lot in the Christian church. And what I was mentioning earlier about it really doesn't matter which route you take, because a lot of people are on that. If you don't do it this way, see, what you have to understand, overstand and understand, is that the enemy has many tricks. And if you're not discerning, if you're not in tune spiritually, see, I have to stress this. I have to keep stressing this over and over and over again. You're not in a religious fight. You're not in a religious fight. What do you call it? Denomination against denomination. You're not in that kind of fight. I'm a Baptist, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Presbyterian, I'm a Seventh-day Adventist, I'm a Church of God in Christ, I'm a Jehovah's Witness, I'm all of this kind of craziness. That is the enemy, and a lot of us don't even see it. And let me say this. There are going to be many casualties in the battle. There are going to be some people who are not going to make it because They're using the wrong tools. What is your idol? What is your idol? Is your car your idol? Is your clothes your idol? Are your children your idol? Is your husband or your wife your idol? Is your house your idol? Is your money your idol? What are you worshiping? Because as I remember it, Jesus never told you to worship him. He said, don't call me good. He said, there's none good but who? The Creator. Now, you may say Father. I might say Creator. I choose to say Creator, the Creator of all things. Because when we start talking about gods, you can say there are many gods. And then there are people who would argue you and say, no, there's only one God. No, there are many gods. There's only one Creator. But we won't debate that. So what are you worshiping? Who's your idol? Because you're not supposed to have any. And you got a lot of people, or you have a lot of people who have idols. Who have idols. Is Beyonce your idol? Is Jay-Z your idol? Is LeBron James your idol? Is Tom Brady your idol? Is Denzel Washington your idol? Is Jamie Foxx your idol? And see, I want you to understand to the highest level that your ascension, your spiritual ascension, depends on the DNA activation that is God giving to you, that's in you, that God particle. The higher vibrational frequency, which we call the Kundalini. You are the only people on the planet Earth that's melanated people all over the world. My Indian Africans, my Black Jamaican Africans, my Canadian Africans, my Egyptian Africans, my Cameroonian Africans, my Venezuela Africans, I can go on and on and on and on. My Dutch Africans, my Irish Africans. What you have to understand, overstand, and understand, we're the most studied people on the planet. Why? I said this earlier, because we're fascinating. We have the God particle, that Kundalini, the black dot. Our people are the only people on the planet who have a high ratio of activation in the pineal gland. Anyone else? Pineal gland is decalcified, meaning after they turn around 11 years old, it's dormant. So you have people who are trying to activate your spirituality and DNA activation, your spiritual connectivity with the Creator, and claim that they're spiritual. You have all these people who claim they're so spiritual, who don't look like you. If they're so spiritual, why do we have so much racism in the world? If they're so spiritual, why are there so many killings of indigenous African people on the globe? If they're so spiritual, why are there not more people loving? Why are there not more people who don't look like us? Who don't look like us? And let me say this as well. A lot of us don't love us. A lot of us don't love us. So all skin folk ain't kinfolk. We have some agents among us. Ultimate excellence lies not in winning every battle, but defeating the enemy without ever fighting. Remember that. Remember that. I'll say that again. Ultimate excellence lies not in winning every battle, but defeating the enemy without ever fighting. And so this is what I was saying before. I was saying this earlier. We're not going to win this spiritual war with guns, with bullets, with the ammunition of the enemy. That's what he has to fight with, because he's not spiritual. Your battle is spiritual. And this is why you have to raise your Kundalini energy. And you say, well, Seth, how do I do that? You have to, number one, you have to eat right. You have to start somewhere. You have to think right. You have to surround yourself with good vibrational energy. People who want the best for you and you want the best for them. You have to extract yourself from every poison, whether it be alcohol, whether it be reefer or that kush or whatever you're doing, crack, dope, pills. You have to cleanse yourself from all of these man-made things that throw off your molecular functioning, your molecular system. Because in order for your pineal gland to be active in its full capacity, you have to have a cleansed spirit, loving your brother, loving your sister, not putting up with no foolishness. See, and the way this happens is you have to come out from among them. Isn't that what you say often? You got to come out from among them. Be in the world, but not, how do you say it? Let this mind be in you, which was also in who? You say Christ Jesus, but let this mind be in you that's in the higher, let me put it this way, that's in the higher heavens, that's in the creative powers of this universe. Okay, we're going to read some more of this from where we left off this afternoon. And as I said many times, your greatest feat now is your spiritual ascension. They tricked you because they got you wanting to be something. Why are you trying to be something rather than being? See, because you're going through all this trouble to trying to be something because they told you you ain't good enough. They told you you have to be something. You have to achieve something. So why don't you achieve your higher God self? What's greater than that? There's nothing greater than that. There's nothing greater than that. I'm telling you. There is nothing greater than your higher God self, your higher goddess self. There's nothing greater than that. You can't find anything else on the planet that's greater than that. Because when that is achieved, guess what happens? you change the whole diagram. You change the whole system around you. You say, okay, Seth, what about money? What about, you have a house to live in. You have a car to drive. You have food in your refrigerator. You have clothes to put on your back. You can occasionally go to the store and buy yourself something. What else do you need? What else do you need? See, this is the thing. This is the very thing I'm talking about, where they have us tricked. You got to go out and buy these nails. You got to go out and buy these eyelashes that look like Swiss brooms. You know what I'm saying? You got to go out and buy this fake hair. Come back to all natural, being the goddess that you are. And sisters, I'm telling you, my queens, my goddesses, we got to get back. Brothers, we got to get back to our God self. We got to get back. We got to get back. And we have to really divorce the type of attitudes and dispositions that we have had towards one another and towards things. And you know what has you messed up like that? This world system has you messed up like that. It sold you a bill of goods that you bought into. So you've divorced your spiritual God self for material gain. You've divorced everything spiritual to have something tangible that's going to fade away. That's not going to mean anything. Okay? I don't even buy clothes no more. Why? I don't need any. I don't need any. You only should purchase what you really need. Excess is a sin. Why are you accessing yourself with all of these things that you may not even get the chance to use? Why not give something to somebody? Find somebody who needs a suit. Find somebody who needs some shoes. Find somebody who needs a dress. Find somebody who needs a winter coat, who needs a scarf to stay warm. There are many homeless people on the street. I do it all the time. Find somebody you could take out to lunch. See, they have us in this system all wrapped up, keeping you preoccupied with this material world. And meanwhile, your spiritual self is suffering, dying a slow death, Let me move on. I'm going to read this. For the same reason, most humans live in a state, because I stopped this afternoon, I stopped above that. And so that's why I'm reading from that point. Okay. And maybe I'll go back and just kind of refresh, but I'm going to start from here. Okay. It says, for the same reason, most humans live in a state of amnesia from birth, forgetful of their past lives and divine inheritance, including their soul gifts and purpose. Light cold seeds are buried in the soil. Remember that, in the soil. Now, when it says life seeds are buried in the soil, they're buried in the soil of your DNA. Your inner molecular functionality within your what they call a solar system, which is inside of you. A solar system. You have a solar system within inside your internal organs. That's where the soul is, the seeds, the buried soul seeds are, okay? And so unless those are activated through you meditating, having the right thoughts, aligning your feelings with your thoughts and your emotions, being grateful, when all these things align, then you begin to pull in the spiritual things from the cosmos because you're creating a balance. Inactive, unsprouted, like plant seeds, they are paradoxically latent yet alive potentials that are full of utility. They rest nestled up against the full length of our carbon-based biological DNA. Because you know that we're carbon-based people, right? Okay. Carbon is in everything in the universe. Plants, seeds, and that's where they get their melanin from the carbon. Okay? And from the DMT. And we'll get into that. Okay. So the length of carbon-based biological DNA, okay, and stay that way until something brings them to life into our human awareness, which I'll get to, as I just mentioned. When activated into our awareness, light codes bring us into a deeper embodied resonate understanding or cellular remembrance of who we are at the individual soul level, why we are here, as well as our shared cosmic oversoul. Now, have you ever felt you've been here before? Because you have been. You've always been here. You've always been here, or else you wouldn't be here. You understand what I mean? And this is why when you guys use the terms, God has predestinated me, I've been predestined for this or for that, because you've been here before. That seed has been here. That soul seed has been here 1,000 millennia ago. Okay? And so we have people who are studying us because they're still trying to find out where they fit in. You follow me? Because as quiet as kept. And most of you might say, "Oh man, that's a stretch." But melanated people ruled the world at one time. We're the first Italians. We're the first Greeks. We're the first Romans. See, they lied to you because you thought it was the other way around. We were the first Greeks. We're the first Welsh. We're the first Dutch. We're the first Irish. Okay? And so when all these other people eventually came into these areas, they became that. They put those names on themselves. Say, I'm Irish. But we were the first. Okay? Because we're the first people on the planet. And we inhabited all of these regions around the world. The black man and woman ruled the world at one time. And what I want you to do, I want you to look up, when you get a chance, the wild man and the wild woman. And you'll see. See, because these people, not to put anyone down, not to be pejorative, as I always say, but these people are still trying to find themselves in history and in culture, because we're the only people on the planet that don't have Neanderthal DNA. So what's that tell you? We're the only people. The only people. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard of Henrietta Lacks. Remember Henrietta Lacks in 1957? When she went to the hospital, she had cancer, and come to find out that she had regenerating cells that kept regenerating, that wouldn't stop. And they went ahead, these scientists and doctors at Johns Hopkins, and what they did was they took her cells without the consent of her or her family, And what they did with these cells were they began to manipulate these cells because her cells never stopped being, and to this day, they're still growing. They use her cells, a black woman now, they use her cells to create vaccines for polio, all these types of diseases, right? And to this day, they are using those cells, creating medicines. Now, listen to me. Listen to me carefully. Listen to me good. They're using these medicines today, these high DNA medicines that came from this woman, that came from this woman's cells, right? And they're creating all types of vaccines and cures for a select group of people, but they won't give it to you. They'll give you something synthetic. They'll give you something to kill you, but meanwhile, they'll take her cells and her DNA and her genes, right? And they are creating all these other types of antidotes, right? And they'll inject these into other people who don't look like you to save their lives. But then they'll create something synthetic and poison and give it to you and your children. Yeah, okay. See what I'm saying? That's what they do. That's what they do. So it says here, those scientists and academic minds alike would scoff at this assertion of light codes our carbon DNA, which is what most largely operates from, is only one level of consciousness. It is what some call third dimension consciousness. And just like how we are evolving from fossil fuels to solar panels, our DNA is a quickening evolutionary ascension process from its carbon base to the crystalline light intelligence of our higher self. And it's an alchemical, because alchemy comes from Kemet. They were the ones that created the alchemy system where you begin to manipulate molecules and neutrons, protons, and all that. That came from the motherland when the Kemites were doing these things thousands of years ago. And so this is why I often say that everything normally happens within your subconscious before it gets to your brain. You've already thought it. So this is why you'll hear a lot of people say, you was thinking that before you did it. Yeah, of course. It was already planted. The seed was already planted in your subconscious before it got to your brain. So it's so important and critical that you are having a clear subconscious of peace, tranquility, and of higher vibrations, so that your mind balances everything when the thought gets there to your mind, and that your emotional output is balanced with that as well. So you have your mental, you have your emotional, and you have your subconscious all in alignment to bring a positive result. Because when all those things are aligned, it brings a positive result. The universe can't but bring you a positive result. You understand what I mean? You understand? You understand? That's what's going to happen every time. So, what we're going to do, we're going to pause again, and we're going to come right back. I'm not going to leave you out there like that. We're coming back because I want to give you guys a story on this gentleman that I was talking about in Africa, because we're not going to rush this. We're not going to rush it because there's so much for me to give you here. So much. But I love you guys, and I'm telling you, support, just like, that's all you got to do. Okay? This is our saving grace. It's about higher consciousness It's always been about that. They fooled us, but we're waking up. A lot of us are going to get it. Some of us are not. But for those who do get it, you're going to change the whole, you're going to change everything around you. You're going to change everything. See, because let me say this too. What are you willing to sacrifice? What is so important that you're not willing to make it a sacrifice? Because you're going to have to anyway. Even on your side of how you believe, when y'all say, and the Bible says, and your Bible says that if any man is going to follow me, what does he have to do? Now he says in your scriptures, it says you have to pick up a cross. So what kind of cross is that you have to pick up? You're already carrying the weight of the world on your shoulders as being a melanated person. Okay? So it behooves you to take in all the spiritual energy and to gravitate towards your higher self and be your ancestors. Be your ancestors. And that's what you should say. I am my ancestors. So here we are. I'm going to read this and we're going to stop and come back. This is hard to imagine for most and would be quickly refuted or laughed at by the majority. However, one just needs to look at the results my clients have experienced in their remote starlight healings to find evidence for this quantum transmutation and transformation, to see that there is unquantifiable intelligence operating beyond the bounds and conditions and learnt logic. A skeptical 3D mind will most often perceive and find confirmation bias to validate its limited and familiar paradigms. It does not have eyes to see and ears to hear. One needs to heal and activate enough to transcend the limits of carbon perception. Experience ultimately opens the sensory gateways. That's it. See, because a lot of us are still third dimensional when we're already in the fourth dimension in the universe. A lot of us are still third dimensional. And I hate to say it, it's true. See, because you're still grappling down there with material things. That's your main thing. You're more concerned about material stuff. So you're still third dimensional. You're not raising your vibrational frequency by being third dimensional. You have to come up. You have to come up to the fourth dimension and then the fifth dimension, because we're in Aquarius now. We're already in the fifth dimension, because as your Bible says that in the last days, knowledge shall increase. Am I in the book or what? It says knowledge shall increase. People will become lovers of themselves more than lovers of the Creator. High-heady, high-minded, proud, arrogant. And you know, my people's back from home in Connecticut, we some proud, arrogant people. And y'all know I ain't doing nothing but telling the truth. I know a lot of y'all. Y'all know me. But I know a lot of people back home who are very humble, very peaceful, very beautiful people. But there are a lot of people who unfortunately are still groveling at trying to. What are you doing? You're trying to. You're trying to. Why are you competing with other people? Why are you doing that? For what? You still want to be a part of this world system, and you want to be seen, and you want to make a name for what? For what? That's arrogance. That's vanity. That's pride. Pride go before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. I'm all up in your book. Get rid of that stuff. Raise your frequency. Raise your kundalini. Raise your vibration. Come up. Come up out of Babylon. I know you need money, but how much money do you need? Don't let that be your death. I know you want a husband. I know you want a wife, but don't let that be your death. See, and you can tell when people are spiritual, because a lot of these things, they begin to divorce themselves from these worldly things, and they're no longer a priority to them. They're no longer a priority because they begin to rearrange, they begin to manage what's really important in life. And as I said, it's your spiritual life, your spiritual ascension that's more important than anything else. Don't you want to see your loved ones who've gone on to be with the Creator? I know I do. But you're not going to get there groveling down here. You're not going to get there still being carnal, still being fleshly. How do you plan on, even if you want to see, because like I said earlier, we see things differently, but we're still going to the same place. We might use different methods, as I mentioned earlier. We're still going to the same place because we're melanated beings. But that's up to you whether or not you're going. Because your scripture says that when he shows up, or when the ancestor shows up, if you're in filth, it said be filthy still. If you're doing all kinds of putrefied, sinful stuff, unrighteous stuff, you think you're going somewhere? No, you're not. That's in attitude, that's in spirit, that's in disposition, that's in the way you think, that's the way you treat your brother, that's the way you treat your sister, that's the way you treat your mother, your father, that's the way you treat your friends, your coworkers. It all matters. This is the dress rehearsal. I'm going to pause, and we're coming back. Stay with me. Okay, goddesses and gods, or gods and goddesses, we're back, and we're going to continue where we left off. As I told you, I'm going to give you this because I love you. And I want to see you reach your higher self. I want us all to go there together. See, this is what's happening in the universe. As you see the shifting and the spinning, see how the days are shorter? And it's not because it's wintertime. It has nothing to do with that. It has to do with space. We're in space spinning. So now you get up in the morning and 12 hours seem like 6, right? Have you noticed? That's because we're spinning fast. The universe, there's a shifting spiritually that's actually taking place. And if you are unclear of what's happening, there's a reason for that. If you don't have a clue, it's because you're in a warp dimension of elevation. In other words, and again, this is not a put down. Your mind has been shifted to trivial things that really don't have any spiritual dividends, so to speak. Because the trick is to keep your mind off of who you are. The trick is to bury you in this grotesque system of trying to be something that carries very little weight. Now, you might, there might be people, hey, wait a minute, brother, what you talking about? You trying to say what I'm trying to do don't mean nothing? Does it? Does it? Does it over your spiritual life? Does what you're doing have precedence? Does what you're doing, is it more important than your spiritual ascension? You tell me. I don't think we got an argument, do we? Because if that is more important, whatever you're doing, if that's more important than your spiritual ascension, then my brother or my sister, you are lost. And I feel bad for you. Because you were made to be your God self. That's why you're here. And it's been the plan and the design of this system to keep you groveling for all the times that you have been, including me, until I came out of it. Why you think there's always so much focus on you? And I don't mean you as an individual, but I'm talking about the collective. And like I said, we're the most studied people on the planet. These people are still trying to find themselves in history. This is why they steal. This is why there's so much appropriation going on in the stealing of other people's cultures. Now, I was listening to the other day. I want to say this. You remember the song, and I'm sure all of you remember this song. Dee 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 dee. Dee dim dum dum dee day. I'm forgetting the melody somewhat, but you know what I'm talking about, right? The lion sleeps tonight. Don't you know that it was an African guy that wrote that song? And Disney and other people got a hold of that song, The Lion King, right? All of us are familiar with that. The song made multi-millions. And his family obviously went to court. I don't know whether or not they got paid or they just a real sad situation. And to seeing the family up in court, the man's mother crying, and I think the gentleman, I think he died. I think that he died. And the family has not gotten restitution from what I understand as of to this day. People will steal your inventions. They will steal from you. Because on this platform, they was talking about the 10 most hidden things that were stolen from Africans, which we know there have been millions. Another one is how Picasso, we are familiar with the so-called great Picasso, right? The artiste, okay? But don't you know that Picasso stole his ideas from African art? And of course, there are those who would debate that and say, no, 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 no. So how can you take the word, and it's an unfortunate situation, how can you take the word of people who have plagiarized, who have pillaged, who have stolen, the list goes on and on and on. And they've done this. This is their history. So how do you believe somebody like that? You know, how do you, it's just like right now, what we're dealing with in the continent. You have all these European nations right now as I speak saying, continent, really help us. Can you help us? We're energy depleted. We're energy, right now we need energy. And so we have all these European nations right now going to the continent saying we need gas, we need oil, we need cobalt, we need diamonds, we need gold, we need this. Now here are the same people now. Here are the same people saying, trust us. Trust us. Can you trust us? Can you give us a chance? Can you trust us? And these are the same people who colonized, did all they can to keep the continent poor. And there's still areas in the continent that are poor because of pillaging, because of plundering, because of colonization, because of exploitation. And they're saying, trust us. Come on, really? And so, to move on, the Creator promised that the continent would come back up. It would rise again. And they still have their problems, trust me. They still have their problems, but trust me. Trust me. Trust the Creator. It's all coming to a head. It's all coming to a head. The indigenous man will rule the planet again. See, because his plans, we know that he has plans. We know that the wicked one is working overtime. And he's going to lose. You read the end of the book. He's going to lose. He's going to lose. It's a done deal. It's a done deal. And I'm going to read this, some more of this, and then I'm going to give you, and I'm going to come back again. Like I said, we have plenty of segments because this is a lot of information. This is a lot of information. I want to read to you about the African guy. His name is Simeon Togo. Okay, and how that he was like a Jesus. This story is so mind-blowing, it's unreal. Okay, and this is why I'm saying to you about raising your higher self, because greater things you're going to do when you arm yourself. That's why when you guys talk about put on the whole armor of God, what do you think that's about? You need to put on that spiritual armor. It's not religious. I can't stress this enough to you guys. It's not a religious fight. It's a spiritual fight. This is why you have to be spiritual and not religious. This is why you have to be spiritual and not religious, because there's nothing happening in the religious world. Everything that's being done in the religious world is being done by man and unfortunately woman. It's a mess. You have to come up to your spiritual, your higher self, That spiritual armor that you need to have on to gird your mind, your spirit, your soul, your emotions, your pineal, your kundalini, to guard your spirit, to put on all these things because you're going to need them. You're going to need them. And NASA leaked out this information that they know from the visitations that have been happening all around the world of these ships in the sky. They say they call them unidentified flying objects. These are ships with our ancestors. They've already been seen. There have been people who've said they've seen black folks on the ships. That's right. That's right. See, and this is so powerful because the Creator knew. The Creator already knew. Unless he does what he does, it said it will be no flesh saved, because man will destroy himself and everybody in it. If he cannot have his way, he will destroy this planet. He will destroy this planet. And that's why it's going to be spiritual intervention on the behalf of the galactic ancestors. You follow me? Now, you may call it something else. I'm saying the galactic ancestors that are traversing the stars, the planets, and the galaxies that they have been for centuries. There's nothing new under the sun, or the two suns, as I spoke of before. Okay? There's nothing new. Our ancient ancestors have been having visitation thousands of years ago of the ancestors. That's why they was able to do great feats. No one on the planet has done the feats that our ancestors done. All the castles around the world have been built by indigenous people. The Great Wall of China has been built by indigenous black Chinese. Okay? That's where the sand people come from in on the continent. And so when you look at the sand people, you'll see the resemblance of the people that call themselves Chinese today, because we were the first. And I know that comes across real strong. And there are people probably saying, oh, he don't know what he's talking about. Oh, really? Do the research and you'll find out that what I'm saying is nothing but the truth. But they don't want you to know the truth. As our garden comes to life, so do we. We wake from our sleepy state and share the infinite diversities of our inner universe for all to see and feel, and for all to be blessed by, even without doing anything, just by having our garden in delightful bloom. You got to have your garden in delightful bloom. That means having your soil right, so you can have good spiritual seeds that are being planted from the universe. Okay? Those who walk by us take in, often at an unconscious level, the beneficent spectrum of our divine nature. As the saying goes, when a master walks through a village, the village changes. We are those masters in the making, and tending to our gardens is the journey. Your spiritual gardens is the journey. Tending to your spiritual life is the journey. This healing and activation process is not easy by any means, for, like the soils of Mother Earth, The soils of our DNA have been depleted, encrusted, lacking the active, intelligent substance that comes from receiving regular water and sunlight. The water is our tears, and we have many tears to shed as a species, do we not? But unlike tribal communities where grief is communally expressed and honored in ceremony as part of simply being an integrated human connected with the land, we in Euro-Western cultures have denied our emotional body. Now, see, I have a problem with that. We in Euro-Western cultures have denied our emotional body. A psychophysiology unable to weep with regularity becomes hard and detached, unable to find root in the ground and unable to open to the light above, lost between both in the horizontal matrix of our material success-driven world. Humans numb and distract themselves and call this normal. Now, they just said, or the writer just said, Euro-Western cultures have denied our emotional body. Okay, so if you denied your emotional spiritual bodies, meaning, okay, I'm assuming this is talking about white folks. See, and then it says a psychophysiology unable to weep with regularity becomes hard and detached. You know why that is? Because you are not connected. Your pineal gland is calcified. So if you don't have spiritual connectivity, it's not hard for you to not weep when you see the world doing what it's doing. You become hard and detached, unable to find your root in the ground, and unable, as it says, they're unable to open to the light above, lost between both in and the horizontal matrix of our material success-driven world. Humans numb and detract themselves and call this normal. And that's what most people do. Most people detract from what's going on in this world, and they see all this stuff around them, and they'll call it normal. They'll see black folks being killed and slaughtered in the street. That's normal to them. There's no outcry for that. There's no emotions for that when they see that happening. And so and this is the thing. And I don't mean to be harsh, but people want to have it both ways. You know how we say, you want to have your cake and eat it too? The world don't work like that. Listen, this pattern is not new. It goes back many thousands of years, all the way back to the ancient Atlantis, and before that to Lemuria, when after decades of being thriving, advanced civilizations, each succumbed to the guiding influences of darkness, ones that still today cloud us from the light we are. For we are governed by the dark's legacy of patriarchal power structures determined to keep us asleep, separate and under their frequency control. So a lot of times too, when you hear the word darkness, And darkness is always ascribed to something bad. Please make sure that you understand and understand that you read into that, because everything comes out of darkness, and everything that comes out of darkness is not bad. It was out of darkness that brought the light. Okay? Because in your Bible, it says it was moving upon the face of the waters. It was void, and darkness was upon the deep, right? And all that, right? And so the Creator lives in darkness. But he knows how to come to the light. He knows how to bring the light. It's in the darkness of the womb where life is germinated. Right? All life happens in darkness. Okay, that's another podcast. But you know what we're going to do? Because I want to bring you this other information about the African gentleman and this NASA information. I'm going to stop there, and I'm going to pull that up, and we're going to be right back in a few moments, and we're going to continue. Okay? Stay with us. This is Seth Moore coming to you here on Anchor by Spotify. Stay tuned. We'll be back in a moment. Okay, fam, we are back. This is Seth Morgan coming to you on Anchor by Spotify, where you can, of course, visit us on Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music Podcasts, Apple Music, and Spreaker and Podbean, and many other host sites where you can visit us twice a week, where you can find episodes of our world news as we bring you current events that are happening around the world. So we're going to continue. And I mentioned before we got off earlier that I was going to bring you this story. And I'm going to bring you the story of, because I'm going to save the NASA story for the next segment, and we'll probably do that one on the weekend. So, but I want to give you a bit of this one, and we may not finish this one tonight because it's a little late, but I just want to give you some of it, and so that I can keep your spirits high and all the things that we've been discussing and talking about. So just pay attention, and I want you to hear this story. This is incredible. This is of a black man in Africa. Okay, his name is Simeon Togo. The incredible story of the Black Jesus from the 1960s. Now, let's do this first. What we'll do, because I have this here, we'll just, I'm trying to see what I should read first, what I should give you first. Let's see. Because this one here, this portion here, okay, so I'll read this here, and I'll And what I'll probably do is I'll probably skip over some things to get to the main thing, the main story, so that I don't give it away. Okay, it says, one of my readers named Antonia, who had read my previous article, The Incredible Story of the Black Jesus from the 1960s, was kind enough to send me a PDF file of a back issue from Nexus magazine containing the article, An African Messiah, The Third Secret of Fatima. Nexus magazine's volume 201, volume and number 5. Years back, she had heard stories about the Nexus article from her uncle and contact Nexus in the hopes they could locate it. After a weeks-long process, they found it and converted it to a PDF file. For her, there were only paper copies at that time. This article provided me with some fascinating corroborating details about the Black Jesus story, in addition to some fresh insights into African history that I had never heard of or even imagined before. Okay? I usually don't post long excerpts in my articles. I just refer to the source, but this Nexus article is not available online unless you buy it. And I had to transcribe it from the PDF. The long excerpts which follow here and in part 2 corroborate with the legend that an African man with supernatural abilities pictured above and going by the name Simeon Toko had been able to bring himself to life in front of astonished witnesses after having been slaughtered to pieces. Do you hear what I'm saying? Slaughtered to pieces. Now, of course, this happened in the 1960s. They say, it's argued that they saying that this is fictional, that it really, there's doubts that it didn't happen, but there's proof by people in villages and the people that this man encountered at the time that all of this took place. And this is why I was talking about that higher dimension, and we're on this now about the higher dimension and, reaching your God self. Okay? Because again, if you don't believe, see, and I could be over here espousing to a whole nother concept, but it's not much different than what you believe. I'm assured in what I know, okay? But if I'm saying to you what I'm saying to you, and you're saying in your mind or in your spirit or within your consciousness, because sometimes of low-level vibrational frequencies, you're saying, oh, well, I don't believe what you're saying. And if I'm not really putting it much different or not different at all, in fact, as to what you're saying and what you're reading out of your Bible, it begs me to believe, do you believe the Bible? You understand what I'm saying? It begs for me to differ whether or not you believe what you saying that you believe and how you're living. And so this is why I'm bringing to you what I'm bringing to you, because I keep telling you, and I'm going to keep on telling you, this is not religious, y'all. It's spiritual. And so you need to get out of that religious thinking. It's not about religion. You're missing it. Going to church and giving money and all that doesn't raise your vibrational frequency. That doesn't put you in a spiritual ascension. That's why I tell you, some folk gonna get lost in the sauce because they're using all the wrong tools. I digress. I'm gonna go on. Okay. I usually don't post long excerpts, okay, in my articles, and I just read that, I think. I just refer to the source, but this Nexus article is not available online unless you buy it, blah, 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 and transcribe this, woo, woo, woo. Um, pardon the vernacular. And it says, furthermore, while in my previous article noted above David Wilcock, you guys probably are familiar with David Wilcock. He is one of those History Channel persons who reports on ancient aliens and all this stuff. Okay. Recounted that those trying to kill the black Jesus were the cabal. They were the cabal. Now, many of you, some of you may not, but you know what the cabal is, right? The cabal is that faction group who's a real evil group. And I don't, untouchable people who have this kind of like Illuminati kind of secret society. But they tried to get rid of this man and couldn't. They tried. David Wilcock, he recounted that those trying to kill the black Jesus were the cabal. This Nexus article more specifically identified the Vatican. Listen to this. The Vatican and the Catholic missionaries, priests in Africa as having a big hand in this. And it was clearly not an isolated incident. Cruel and oppressive actions were typical of the Catholic Church throughout their forage into Africa, which provides us with a clear context for our story. Now, we know how true this is. The Catholic Church has been involved in many atrocities from millennia past. We know that, including the slave trade. Okay? So, the damage that Christian missionaries have done to the psychology of human kindness in Africa over the centuries is untold. We know that, and they still try to go over there today. Missionaries, like I said, they're trying to go over there and give them these vaccines, and I was just recently looking at a story with a lot of these groups that go over supposedly trying to build schools, but come to find out all the work supposedly that they're doing is not one, is not regulated properly. Two, unbeknownst to the African people that are there as to why these people were coming, and the hidden agenda behind them spending 2 weeks over there is all about these organizations making money, and the people that they send over there can make XYZ amount of dollars just spending 2 weeks over there when, so it's really not honest. It's really not honest at all. And so I would say to you, don't give your money. Okay. So it talks about here, and it says, of course, the missionaries routinely accompanied soldiers who came to steal lands and loot for their home European countries. The procedure went as follows. We know the missionary would stand and read aloud an edict in Latin to whatever villagers had gathered. The edict, now listen to this, y'all. The edict, completely incomprehensible to the villagers, ordered that each of them must at that moment convert to Christianity. Listen to this, y'all. Christians, convert to Christianity or be killed or enslaved in the name of Christianity. After it was read, the guns and swords were pulled. After it was read, let me read that again. After it was read, the guns and swords were put to work. The soldiers felt justified in their murders through the benediction and authority of the Roman Church. Through varying interpretations of the works of church fathers, the Roman Church developed a system of permissible murder and looting, and it was used routinely. And you trying to be, see, this is why I say it's not religious, y'all. It's spiritual. See, because all of that they doing, that's religious. That's under the guise of religious Christianity. And see what's done under the religiosity of Christianity? Murder, pillaging, and plundering. The missionaries would then go to work on the remaining people. The children were taught that their parents' intelligent, peaceful beliefs were from the devil. Isn't that something? Isn't that something? And that they were to accept poverty. Listen to this. And they were to accept poverty for the good of their souls. Whereas the conquerors were supposedly blessed by God with the superior might and wealth, and so had to be obeyed. This is what they did in slavery. The article also describes African societies in ways that were quite eye-opening to me, and that I didn't realize how much I had retained the brainwashing of Western propaganda in terms of my knowledge and understanding of the people and the cultures across the continent. Much of the news, the media news from Africa in the past 80 years has been presented as political rebellion and tribal warmongering, or as a battle between good, civilized countries versus evil communists over the souls of Africans who are still considered uncivilized, superstitious, and too immature individuals to be left to themselves. What with all those raw materials and diamonds yet needing to be dug up. This is the general bias of news reporting from Africa as I remember it since my own childhood. It's not much different now. We tend to think of the African people with a distortion somewhere between a bouquet of jokes about banana republics and a vague, distant horror of unexplainable war and slaughter. Shameful. The first slave traders who came to Africa in the 15th century found an advanced society. You see what I'm saying? We were always advanced, more advanced than they can ever dream of. We taught them. They didn't teach us anything. And they say, well, we taught y'all how to read and write. That gutter bastardized English. You didn't teach us anything. If I remember correctly, we used to rule this. When we came to Spain, you was living in squalor. You didn't even bathe yourself. 99% of the population of Europe was illiterate. Kings and queens could not even read or write. So who did you teach? This is why they don't want, with this critical race theory that's coming through these school systems, and they're trying to suppress the African teachings in the schools, is because it would have to, if they would have to do the whole curriculum all over the entire country in the world. And they don't want that. They don't want the truth to come out, that little white children would have to learn that the black man and woman civilized them as much as we could anyway. Okay? And they don't want that to come out, that most of the stuff that we use today has been invented by a black man and woman. They don't want this kind of information to come out, that black people used to rule the world, that black people are the most civilized people on the planet. that black people are the seed and the God particle. This is the information they don't want to come out. Okay, so anyways, we're moving right along, and we're going to get to the meat of this story. And of course, they said the first slave traders who came to Africa in the 15th century found an advanced society dominated by a monotheism with a powerful code of ethics. Powerful code of ethics. We had order. We did things right. They did not find half-naked people in grass skirts with bones through their nose. They did not find rows of fat little stone fertility goddesses and voodoo fetishes. They found an intelligent, friendly, dignified people who had created beautiful avenues, pleasant buildings, well-regulated agricultural fields, and fine clothing. We were wearing Egyptian cotton. We were wearing silks. When the Moors went to Spain, we were wearing silks and linens and encrusted swords with gold and diamonds. So what are you talking about? We were savages. What are you talking about? The full excerpt below gives an important background to the life of Simeon Toko, who know that the true writing is a bit dense and has many Christian undertones, but I think this is an important part of understanding the zeitgeist in Africa at the time, and is certainly worth your time and efforts to plow through. Okay, so what I'm going to do, got about 10 minutes left. Okay, so I'm going to read you, and I'll come back to this other portion. And we'll, like I said, we'll continue this. But let me do this. So I've given you that, and so let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do this. See how when you're doing stuff, you know, you got people that want to play with you. They want to play with your, try to interrupt. Okay, so let's. I had to pull it back up. Okay, so let's do this. I'm gonna give you this, and we're gonna be done for tonight, and we're going to continue on. Like I said, I think we'll pick it up the weekend. Okay, so the incredible story of the Black Jesus from the 1960s. They say that truth is stranger than fiction. For many of us in search of the truth behind the controlled perception that the cabal has very meticulously layered into our lives, we have found multitudinous bits and pieces of evidence that suggest that virtually nothing can be truly considered impossible anymore. Indeed, we have come to see that a lot of science fiction has actually been informed by truth, and movies and TV series often speak to historic events and technologies that have already happened and been developed. There's nothing new under the sun. The Creator says there's nothing new under the sun. So if it's happening now, it's happened then, and it'll happen again. This is what I'm saying to you. So if there was super people in our ancestral past, there will be super people now. We are that people. And we don't have to use divination for it to happen. All we have to do, we have that black DNA activation. Okay? That's what we use. That's our go-to. When Star Trek first came out, people were amazed that in this full futuristic series, people could step in front of a door and it would sense their presence and open automatically. In the actual filming of the original Star Trek series, there was someone behind the panels opening and closing the doors on cue. But today we have the real thing and simply take this as normal and commonplace technology, which in fact was probably hidden from us since the days of Tesla until recently. Okay. And I don't really want to consider that Star Trek stuff, but anyways, people who are Trekkies and all that, they love it and they understand. Using discernment. Of course, if we feel that anything is possible, then we run the risk of going along with the disinformation and getting caught up in a false leads that are not actually helping us get a better picture of the truth. It is more important than ever that we are vigilant and our discernment powers continue to improve. For me, discerning truth is a matter of measuring any particular claim against the full body of knowledge I have accumulated and see if there is a coherence with it. If it does not cohere with my belief system, that does not mean it is false. It just means I have something to measure it up against to evaluate if it makes sense. I can continue to hold beliefs that range from certain to doubtful, and as new information comes in, all my other beliefs are open to be challenged, as long as a more coherent, bigger picture comes into view as a result. There is very little then that I hold as certain. Two of the fundamental anchors of my belief system is that we are all one, and that mind, the unmanifest creates matter. The manifest, and this serves me well in having a foundation for reality, which is inevitably a fusion of the spiritual and the material. And so when I came across the story of the Black Jesus in David Wilcock's latest book, The Ascension, I've been using that word, haven't I? Pay attention, y'all. The Ascension Mysteries, revealing the cosmic battle between good and evil. Didn't I say this battle is spiritual? It's a cosmic battle between good and evil. This is not about any of that other stuff. Not about religion. I keep saying that. So you have to detach and let go of those things that are hampering you, keeping you detached to this matrix where you can't elevate. My discernment filter was on high alert. The story sounded hard to believe based on my ordinary, everyday consciousness and personal experiences. However, having David Wilcock recount the story as coming straight from one of his trusted confidential sources adds a bit of credibility to it. That did not mean I truly believed it or fully believe it to this day, but I continue to try to make sense of this story in terms of how it fits within my current paradigm and reality. And certainly in this regard, it remains within the realm of possibility for me. Here is the story as recounted in the book. And so this is important as well, as I just read. And when it talks about the story sounded hard for him to believe first, right? And when I had mentioned consciousness and how things usually happen in your consciousness, then it'll be transferred or traversed to your mental. So when he heard this consciously, he was already a disbeliever because his conscience already had told him it can't be true. You see what I'm saying? So this is one of the attachments rather, that you have to let go of, because it happens consciously first. And if you say no in your conscious, fierce of solar essence, then what happens is when it gets to your brain is already saying, no, I can't do this. This can't be done. That's where you have to reprogram and regenerate your whole essence of existing as a God self, as a God person, as a God entity. I don't want to use that word person, because that word person, if you look it up governmentally, that word person means to be withdrawn from anything that's owed to you. So but that's something else. Anyways, so you have to be mindful of that it happens consciously first. And so this is what was happening with him. So let me read on so I can get to the story. Okay, so one of the most surprising stories Jacob ever told me concerned a man they called the Black Jesus. He said this was highly classified and he was definitely talking out of school to tell me about it at all. Apparently in the 1960s, a man appeared in Africa who had full extended abilities. He could read people's minds, materialize objects out of thin air, communicate telepathically, levitate himself, and teleport his body from one location to another. Now, as I was saying earlier, if you say that's crazy, you might as well give up on everything that you believe right now. I'm talking to you Christian people. And I'm only using that because you label yourself Christian. Because I said it's not about religion, right? It's not about religion. It's about spirituality. So if you say that this is impossible, how the hell are you going to believe that Jesus is going to come back for you then? Come on. And how do you believe you're going to do greater works? And if you should eat any deadly thing, it shall not harm you. And you should pick up adders and snakes with your hand, and it shall not harm you. Did not Paul do that in the scriptures? Did it not say that? Huh? Okay. So I want to make it clear. Don't say you don't believe one thing and then you tell me you believe something else. And you should know. It ain't just about belief, because beliefs change every day. So it says here that this man, he materialized objects, reads people's minds out of thin air, communicates, levitates, telepathically, levitate himself, and teleport his body from one location to another. Now, when the Ethiopian eunuch was when one of the disciples, who was it? When he was taking Candace to a particular location in the scriptures, remember that in the story in the book of Acts? And you're surprised I know all this, huh? Because I used to do all that. So anyways, and I'm being facetious really, but think about this. When he was baptizing, when he got out of the chariot, he was with Candace, Queen Candace, in the scriptures. And he went to minister to the Ethiopian eunuch And he began to read out of the book of Isaiah to the Ethiopian eunuch and say, let me take you and baptize you. What happened after he baptized the Ethiopian eunuch? The Bible says that was Philip that did that, right? Now it's coming back to me. It was Philip. It says that after Philip baptized the Ethiopian eunuch, Philip was in another city. How did Philip get to another city? It says immediately after he baptized the Ethiopian eunuch, go back to your scriptures and read it. It says Philip was found in another city. Hello? How did he get there, y'all? Okay, so I'll go on. So it says here that his abilities, it talks about his telepathically levitate, read people's minds, teleport his body from one location to another. He was a spiritual, what did it say? He was a spiritual, right? It says he was not religious. He said he was a spiritual teacher, just like you being spiritually taught tonight. A spiritual teacher who emphasized love, peace, service to others, and forgiveness as the common core that unified all the great religions. That unified. It didn't say divide. It said it unified all the great religions, even though it's not about religions, because it's only religion to bring people together. After that, you have to elevate. You have to elevate. Once you get the basics, you have to elevate. You don't stay there. That's what's called growth. Unified all the great religions. The Kabbalah does not want anyone to develop these abilities. And if they find out that someone has them, they will hunt those people down and terminate them with prejudice. You ain't gonna be able to do that though, because you can't kill what you can't kill, and you can't kill what you didn't make, okay? So all of these people that you've been killing in the street, the reason why those people are being, or have been, I'm not gonna even get into that now. Rest their souls. I won't get into that now. And if they find out that someone has them, they will hunt those people down. Listen to this. And terminate them with prejudice. The Kabul made several attempts to assassinate this man. He consistently regenerated his body after each attack, no matter how lethal it seemed to be. And I can go on to tell you that they chopped this man in many pieces and his body regenerated. Now, you know that is that ain't nothing but the creator, right? That ain't nothing but some high consciousness. That's some high spiritual. Now listen to this. No, they said no matter how lethal the attack, this man consistently regenerated his body after each attack. Finally, the man was told that they had given up. He was far too powerful. There was nothing they could do to stop him, and they were going to surrender. They invited him to a major world summit and told him they would reveal him to all of humanity so he could share his message. You know, and I'm going to tell you what they did. They got him on a plane. I'm going to save it. I'm going to stop right there. I'm going to save it. I'm going to stop right there. This gets more interesting. I'm going to stop right there, y'all. So until the next time, stay with us. Remember to visit us. This is Seth Moore coming to you again on Anchor by Spotify. Remember to visit us on all the other host sites that we frequent. Patreon, Apple Music, Amazon, Spreaker, iHeartRadio. And again, this is Seth Moore coming to you again on Anchor by Spotify. Until next time, have a great night.